Welcome to Impact the World, the show for and about creatives, changemakers, and entrepreneurs. This is a conversation episode where a special guest shares with me what they are creating and the behind-the-scenes journey of their experience. Hello, welcome to Impact the World, and my guest today is Sarah Niles. I am really delighted to be bringing Sarah onto the show for this conversation. Sarah and I go back 26, 27 years. We met at drama school together in Manchester. And for me, witnessing Sarah go on to have this incredible career, both in theatre and in television, most recently playing the role of Sharon in season 2 of Ted Lasso. It has been lovely to witness her rise and to remember that very essence that I always felt in her when we were young kids together, figuring it out. So this was a beautiful reunion conversation where we get to reflect a little bit on our time together back then. But I also ask Sarah really about what she is passionate about with this career that she has chosen. And it came down to storytelling, the ability to tell stories that help reflect us to ourselves, and also what she gets to learn about herself with each role she plays. She shares how a key ingredient for her with every role is bringing love forward. And in one of my favorite parts of the conversation, I ask her a little bit about parenting and what her journey of being a parent this last decade has been and is today. So please enjoy this conversation with Sarah Niles, and you can find links to her Instagram and some of the shows that she's in the show notes. And if you do enjoy Impact the World, it helps us out a lot with our reach if you can subscribe on YouTube, or if you're listening to the show on Apple Podcasts or whichever platform you're using, and you can leave us a rating or review if you feel called. And thank you so much. But for today, enjoy this conversation with Sarah Niles. Sarah, thank you so much for saying yes to doing this. It's kind of hilarious doing this with you, actually, given how long we've known each other. And firstly, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure, absolute pleasure to see you, Lee, and to have a conversation with you. It's very exciting.
We met 27 years ago, which is horrifying in some ways, isn't it?
Wow, is it that long?
Yeah, I was thinking about it coming here to do this today. I was driving along and I was like, wow, because I was 19 when I may have even been 18 when I auditioned for Manchester. And you and I met at Manchester Met University, where we were auditioning for the BA Honours acting course. So it was basically like drama school, but with a university accreditation. It was a fairly new thing. And we met on the audition day because they kept me, you, and a guy called Tobias back. And I remember when we'd watched everyone's auditions, both of you, but I'll focus on you for a second, just blew me away. You were hilarious, you were bawdy, you were this big kind of character doing this monologue, because we all had to do these monologues. And then I remember Tobias was very Shakespearean and incredibly impressive. And the three of us were just sat waiting to be called back for another audition that afternoon. And it's funny now to me that Tobias, who was Tobias Menzies, who then ended up going to RADA instead, I'm watching him on The Crown. I'm seeing you on Ted Lasso and various things I've seen you on, like I May Destroy You lately. And it always kind of brings me back to that moment of sitting with the two of you as three fairly nervous people waiting at an audition to kind of get into this uni, and then the 3 years that we spent together on that course. So it's hilarious to me that we're doing this now 27 years later, because I didn't see this coming.
Yeah, not at all. It's funny when you talk about that. I remember specifically your audition piece, and I remember going, how powerful you were. There was something really powerful, and I have I don't get them as much now, but I remember having this really strong image, like when I kind of like kind of like a kind of vision sort of thing, where everything seems to disappear and you just get that image of that one person. There was something about your connection with the words. I don't know, I can't quite explain it, but I always remember that, how powerful you seem to almost kind of come out of yourself. I can't explain it, but I just remember he's amazing.
Oh, thank you. Well,
Yeah.
the thing with you that really hit me, though, it was funny. It was meeting you afterwards, because it was the power of that bold performance you did, and then meeting you and meeting your shyer, more vulnerable side, like we all have. That to me is always the testament of a really great shamanic performer, someone who can transform, and you always had that. So I've never, maybe I did ask you this back then, but how did you find acting, and how did performing come into your life when you were younger?
I found, you know what, especially in Manchester, I found it quite tricky, because then you started to have, I didn't realize until once you start working, one of the things is, like, it's interesting you say, like, there was that shy and vulnerable side, and then there was a performance. I just kept thinking, if I just pretend to be someone else, I'll get through. And then the more and more, when you do a course like that, the more and more you have to connect with yourself, and you have to present yourself there. You have to be vulnerable, and that's part of it. And I think I struggled with that quite a bit in Manchester, and I struggled with a bit of that and acting. I was like, just want to be someone else, don't want to be myself. And then, can I just be someone else? Can we just do that and put on costumes? But it was never like that. You're just working on yourself. You're bringing yourself out, what you bring to it. So as I've got older, I kind of celebrate that vulnerability. I kind of celebrate that while I'm acting. I enjoy it. It's kind of like you stepping into that fear and slightly enjoying it, because you have some control of it, but also you can surrender to it and you can just see where it will take you. Yeah.
That's a really interesting way of framing it, because it makes me think of your character in Ted Lasso, Sharon, in the second season, because you did have this interesting mix of vulnerability in your scenes, and you could feel her softness, but how she presents at first and how she is presented through the writing as well as your performances, she's this kind of tougher or harder edged outsider, certainly in relationship to Ted, who we later learn you're going to be the undoing of Ted in a really positive way. Like, he's this character that we've watched for season 1, who's always uplifting and always happy, but you're the character that really opens him up in a really powerful scene. So I love that description you just gave. To me, was a bit like watching you in that role.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it was such an interesting role to play. Like, she seems so in her power. She appears that way. She's quite confident, and I've never ever felt like I could possibly say I'm a really good actress. I'm really good at my job, and she unequivocally believed that, and that's how she presented herself. And I thought, what a wonderful place to be. And through that, obviously, you see her humanity more. You see more of her vulnerability, more of the softer side, as you say, as the journey goes on, because it's really interesting how it's just two people and those conversations and how they begin to change each other in a way.
Yeah, the kind of transformation by the end of the season is really lovely, because also her humanity is far more present. She's allowed to be less caricatured in a way, whereas at the beginning that was the device they used to kind of put her in this position. What was it like going into a show like that was so established? And the reason I ask you is, we found it, like many people during all of the lockdowns, loved it because of the level of heart, humor, and transformation in the show. And it's so brilliantly performed by everybody. But is it odd to go into an established show like that and be a brand new character who also is potentially somewhat antagonistic to some of the characters who are already there, certainly at the beginning? Or were you completely oblivious about the show, and so it didn't really affect you going into it?
I was slightly oblivious, not going to lie. I had watched it and I thought I absolutely love it, because I feel like I can always read the heart in any kind of story, and I know I love that, and that's what appealed to me. And I was like, I have to get this job. Got the job, and I was in it, and then I was like, well, they're all kind of like a family. And I'm just coming in, and I am kind of a bit of a loner anyway, so that wasn't too difficult for me to just enter in on your own, because I had no one to. Just all my scenes were with Ted, and I didn't have anyone to rub off, or I didn't have a family, or I didn't have friends, so you can establish your character more. You're just there sitting in front of this person, and it was actually quite a wonderful experience. It's about two actors being generous and offering up something. So yeah, I think I was totally oblivious, and as it went on and they were getting awards, I was a bit, all right, okay. That's just doing really well, this show. It's really good. But and also I kind of felt, part of me I was wrestling with, is like I wanted people to like her, and I was like, that is out of my hands. Actually, that is totally out of my hands. And I think the character resonated a lot more for me than I realized. Like trying to understand the strength of this woman, and her being, and also when you talk about, you bring in this female and she's Black and she's British, and there's so much things that are slightly they're not in sync. He's American, she's British, she's this strong Black woman. What does that resonate? How are people going to read her? I just didn't want people to read her wrong. Whatever they thought, I just wanted not to read her wrong, and I wanted everyone to see the heart of her, which I think this kind of show always does. It always brings the heart of every character.
And definitely your character through the arc of season 2, like by the end, there was a much more multi-dimensional picture of her because of where they took it in the story, the way you took it in your performance. So no, the vulnerability was really there and was really powerful. So I'm hoping you're coming back for season 3. I know all those things are still like in the air and decided.
Yeah, we'll see. I hope so. I think she's brilliant. I love that character, and I really hope she gets a chance. There's exploration for her. Yeah, definitely.
I think they could really, I think where it could go next would be great. It's interesting. I also got to see a show, I May Destroy You, which is an incredible, incredible show. And it was lovely to see you in that story too. And it's funny. So Stephen, my husband, hasn't met you, but he was asking, what's Sarah like, especially in relationship to Ted Lasso? And I said, well, this is very different. I said, this to me has some of Sarah's wisdom and sensitivity that I always knew was there and that I experienced. But I said, no, Sarah isn't like that. I said, that's so interesting. And it got me reflecting on your career, much of which has been in theatre, which I haven't seen. But I was thinking, you've been, in acting terms, very successful, which isn't easy to do. Because I remember when we were at drama school, they basically said, well, 80% of you won't still be doing this in 10 years, which of course was very deflating on the first week we were there. But they were right. It's actually an incredibly overstaffed profession with very few jobs. And so I was wondering how you have managed to navigate the kind of ups and downs of it. Now you've been doing this for almost 24 years now. How have you navigated that? And do you feel it's easier to navigate it now you've done it for so long? Or is it still a strange phenomenon about your profession?
A strange phenomenon. And I think it's like, I think what's attracted me to this career for so long is storytelling. I've always loved it, and that's what's kept me in it. And there's always a promise of some more stories. And I think that's how I've managed to, some jobs I took for hardly any money, but the stories are good. So I think, it's just, and the closer you get to something really beautiful, like I did this, I did I May Destroy You. I did a film called Rocks. I worked with Mike Lee, and the moment you get closer to that kind of way of storytelling and beautiful stories, the more you want to tell stories. I've never really been interested in the fame of it all. Part of that brings about more opportunities for better stories, and I'm not gonna lie, we have to eat.
Yeah.
But there's just, I love storytelling. I really love telling stories. I love transforming. It makes me think back to the old times of relaying stories around a fire or
Mhm.
whatever. I know, um, whatever your thoughts about that are, but that's what appeals to me. It appeals to my heart, and I think that's why I've stayed so long. And then you get to a point where you go, I don't think I can do anything else. What else could I do? So yeah, I guess.
And with each role that you take on, do you notice, especially a role that affects you or a story that affects you, do you notice it changes you? You know, do you feel like with each character or with each scenario you get to put yourself in and immerse yourself into,
Yeah,
afterwards has a change happened for you?
definitely, definitely. I think with the best kind of stories, and the more attention I put to it, and the more I feel like I honor the story. It sounds strange, but the closer I get to who I am, I feel like it's like little clues into who I am, like little bits of a puzzle putting together. Yeah.
And then you get to
Uh,
reveal those.
yeah. I feel like I did this play called Leave Taking by this wonderful writer Winston Pinnock, and it was about this woman who'd come over from the Caribbean, and it was about her life. And she had these two daughters that were British, and it was about her kind of new world, kind of as they were growing up. And her mum was dying in Jamaica, and it was like these little clues. And as I was doing this show, I felt like it gave me clues to my parents.
Mm.
And then there was this situation that was going on with the controversy with the Windrush, and this government, and people being sent back, and it just made me think more. Everything seemed to art and life seemed to be so connected, and it made me really think. It made me really find out more about journeys. I don't know, can't explain it.
No, that
Yeah,
makes sense to me. And I'm
yeah,
guessing depending on the job, that experience is bigger or lesser, depending on the job and how involved you are or how connected to it you feel.
yeah. And like I feel like with Sharon Fieldstone, I feel like that's allowed. I've become a better person having played that character. There's a real um, surety about her, which I absolutely love, and confidence, and love of people, the
So
ability to say what you want, to get what you need, and still, be open and warm. Yeah.
are people confiding things to you now?
Yes.
Revealing their
Yes. Yes. I read an interesting thing, which I've been thinking about it for quite some time. Somebody posted it up. I think it was on Twitter. Somebody said, "I think that Sarah is really a psychologist pretending uh, to be an actress, pretending to be a psychologist."
That's hilarious.
And I really thought about that. I was really kind of like, yeah, there's something I'm interested in about it. I clearly I don't have the qualifications. I haven't studied or anything like that, but there's something about it, and I think it's about the care and the interest in people, humanity, community. I think there's something in that I'm interested in.
Well, don't you think that that's one of the cornerstones, I think, for anyone who's interested in this work? You know, I've looked back now at my connection to acting in my younger years, which perhaps I was taken into it for different reasons, but what it actually became to me was not only a healing journey, but a spiritual
Yeah,
experience. It was like, wow, this is shamanism. This is
yeah,
embodying something else that we're all connected to, and you, through the permission of that story, get to pour yourself into it in a way that you don't when you're
yeah,
in a restaurant with a friend, and unless
yeah.
you're role playing something, I guess. But
It's
I
absolutely truly, yeah.
yeah.
And that's what I saw about you when I first saw you in that. When I saw your monologue, is that spiritual, and I think there's something in that I'm interested in. And I remember seeing that in you. You really had that. ability, that power to really transform. There was just really something really powerful. It's
Yeah,
interesting
but
the journey you're on now. Like, you
yeah.
know, I'm just like, wow. Yeah.
Yeah, but you know what's funny? That period was where I really got into spirituality and music. Like I remember, knowing I had to go to drama school, but also some part of me knew that I wouldn't just be an actor, that wouldn't, but I knew I had to go. And I think credit to our school and Neve Dowling, who was the head at the time, she really made sure that we got a very rounded approach to life. But like you, Sarah, I struggled with vulnerability because I think I was having an identity crisis at the time. I didn't know who I was, but like you, I could like shapeshift into someone else easily. That was far easier for me than trying to play a 20-year-old, or at least a 20-year-old that looked like most of the other 20-year-olds. That was challenging
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah.
So Sarah, you've done a lot of TV and film, and I always remember, my background was far more theatre than anything. And
Yeah.
that to me that was really magic, shamanic space because it's live, everyone's in it together.
Yeah.
How do you find keeping that alive on a TV or film set where you're waiting around for them to set everything up? It's just, they're two very different animals. I'm
Yeah.
guessing theatre is preferable to you, but I was wondering how you manage to keep that presence alive for TV and film.
Yeah. It's an interesting thing because I've always loved theatre, and the more you do, the more you get used to it. And then sometimes I would like, oh, TV, film, yeah, I'll dabble in it, but theatre, but you have so much more choice. I think when you do screen work, it was something I was a little bit frightened of, a little bit apprehensive about. I wasn't sure I was good at it. So actually being in it, and the more you're in it and the more you learn, I think it's kind of like, it is about that story. It's about holding, there's a force, there's like an energy force. You just got to hold it. You just got to hold it. I don't know if that makes sense, but you just got to hold it until, turning and action
Yeah.
and thinking about the story. And you've got to be alive and responsive as you would on stage. It's just the kind of viewpoint is concentrated, but it's like you keep that. I'm always interested in the action between two people or three people. It's the activeness of it all that I think. Sometimes people, and I've done that before, when actors kind of think in their head about what's the story, what's the journey, and what am I trying, rather than it's about the two of you relating, really. That's the most important thing.
And that's when I think that electric chemistry happens. But you can see it on the screen, and you can also see it on the screen when someone else has rehearsed what they're going to do.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
and
Some
they,
people are
and
very good at it. I've
yeah,
seen some actors. I'm like, wow, you did that. Oh.
yeah.
But no, not for me.
And I know you became a parent, and I wondered how has that impacted this job for you? Because I know obviously parenting, that's a full-time job all the
Yeah,
time. And
yeah,
then this job is a seasonal job that can come in and take huge chunks of your life. Like, how have you navigated that?
yeah. It's been, okay, it's kind of mad because, yeah, I was doing theatre for a while. And I thought, oh gosh, that's it. I'm just not gonna work anymore. And then, I mean, she's 9. She's going to be 10 this year.
God.
So it seems to flow somehow. It seems to yeah, it seems to work. It's kind of crazy. But I also kind of try and keep my feet on the ground. I always say, it's wonderful for her to see her mother working in this career. Like, I don't come from a family of actors. None of my family, kind of working class background from the Caribbean. There's just something you didn't really do. And so I feel like a kind of, in a way, a pioneer. Like, I'm kind of pushing the boundaries of how I was brought up. And I think it's great for her to see that, that anything's possible.
What does she think about you and acting, you specifically, and your acting work?
Oh, she thinks I'm famous. It's hilarious. She's I've been lucky. She's been able to see some plays that I've done, maybe one or two, which aren't really for kids, but I did a play at the National, Three Sisters, and she came to see that. And, she loved it. and she came to see Richard II that I did at the Globe. Yeah, she was blown away. So I think it's all she knows, really. I mean,
Yeah.
she sometimes says, "Oh, some of my friends have been looking you up on Google or whatever." You know, it's just like I'm pretty down to earth about it. So is she, really. Yeah.
But it's funny because I'm just thinking, you know, your husband's an artist, and so she's growing up in this super creative house. Like, this would have been my dream house to grow up in as a kid. Like, wow, you know, and I had a couple of friends whose parents were like super creative with things, and I was always like, wow, that's amazing. So yeah, is it having? I'm sure it has a real permission for her creativity wherever that goes, and
Yeah,
whatever she does with
absolutely.
it. But she must just see it as
Absolutely.
normal.
I think she would like a bit more stability, probably, and some kind of order. Yeah, maybe. But But another part of it, she just loves the creative side of it. We're very good at being creative. Yeah, I mean, she's seen us when we haven't had that much money, and when we're in better times now. So yeah, but there's all love. There's always love around for her. So
That's
yeah,
fantastic.
pretty safe. Mm.
I was thinking that one of the things I enjoyed most about our time at Manchester, spending time with you, was hearing you sing. And you used to
Oh,
do jazz afternoons and sometimes evenings, and you were always so great at it. And you have such a beautiful voice.
thank
Is there
you.
room for music in your life still? Certainly, at least as a performer, I guess, or is that something that is just on the back
Yeah,
burner for now?
it's on the back. I haven't done it for a while. I think I want. Yeah, I'm kind of keen to get back into it, and I actually think I did. I was with a couple of bands before, kind of mostly before when Nyla was up to she was a baby. So yeah, as I've gone on to do more film, TV, I haven't really been doing it, but I actually think I'm a better singer now, probably because I'm a lot more confident and probably a bit less fearful, and also with experience and growth. It's just so I sing a lot around around the house,
That's great.
but I'm keen to get back into it. Yeah, yeah.
Well, my wish for you is a role that comes along where it can all kind of coalesce all at once.
Yes,
That would be great.
yes,
That would
yeah,
be great.
definitely, definitely.
I think I feel this quite intuitively for you. I think this is going to be a great decade for you, your career. Like this next decade, I'm like, yeah. When I was watching you in Ted Lasso, I was like, oh, this is good.
Yeah.
This is going somewhere. I just felt that quite strongly.
Oh, thank you, thank you. I really didn't have a clue what I was doing and what this was going, but I just said to myself, you just got to trust in it. You just got to trust in yourself and trust in it. And Jason was very generous as an actor in terms of those times when because he's famous, and he's got this show under the belt, it's season 2, and he took a kind of risk with me. He didn't know who I was. You just send through a self tape, and that's how and yeah, just to trust in the work that I put in. I was always trying to offer up love, and I think to me that's one of the most important things in playing any role is
Mm.
the love, however that translates. I think it's so important. Yeah.
Who have your role models been around that? So who were the people in your life that instilled that in you, or modeled that to you, or taught that to you, love and that kind of connection?
um I'd say my grandmother, that I didn't see her. She lived in Barbados. I didn't see her all the time, but I saw her quite often, and I feel like she was really strongly a part of my life. And um, which is my mother's mum. Really, she came from a fairly humble background. She used to, but I just remember we'd have this big kind of event where we'd go to M&S and we'd buy all these clothes, like nightwear and church clothes for her, and shoes and all these things for hats, and we'd go like every so often, like every couple of years or so often. And my parents, I don't know how they managed to afford to do it, but they did it. We went over there, we'd see her, we'd give her all these clothes. She was really appreciative of it. The next year we'd go and see her. She'd given half those clothes away to other people who didn't need it. And it was that kind of, and I remember my mum getting so upset because obviously that's money she'd earned and worked for, and she wants to offer that because she's not with her. That's, giving the gifts is the love.
Yeah.
But as you get older, it's like you don't. She's like, I don't want for anything. I don't need all these things, and it's that kind of always that having that openness. I think, and also just see growing up and my parents and their friends, and they used to have parties, and there was so much love, and there's so much love of especially love of a black woman. There was always this love of the women when they danced, the way they would prepare the food, the way they looked, the attention. I always remember that, and yeah.
And it's funny because I think that was what I remember you doing at your audition. You embodied this powerful matriarchal energy that was really probably about 20 years older than you at the time, but you embodied it so fully. I was there in the room with this woman.
Oh yeah, I really connect with that.
Yeah.
Definitely.
What role did spirituality or intuition ever play in your life? Because I don't know maybe we spoke about it at uni, and I know I was definitely very into metaphysics then and just exploring it. But like, what role has that played in your life, if any?
All the time,
Yeah,
all day, every day. But you know what? And still I haven't quite got anywhere close to the beginnings of it. And I remember that very clearly for you, and that's specifically why when I said when you did the audition, and the image I had of you was as if there was just you and everything went black, but just you were there, and it was just like this beacon of light. And I've had those kind of visions a few times. They've got less as I've had Nyla, and my focus has been elsewhere. But that's I think that's my guiding thing with acting and decision making. It's always been the spirit. But yeah, I do remember having conversations with you. I always remember you were always exploring it. You were always finding ways to explore it. And I was always going, I touch a little bit and then I'll back away. Dabble a little bit. Yeah.
But the intuitive force, I always felt that energy in you, like that spiritual force was always present with you and around you, and you would channel it like when you were performing and singing too. So I was just curious what your relationship to it was now.
Yeah, I continue to pull on it. I definitely do. And I do think it's all bigger than me, and the roles that I play and the chance to do that is, the fact that I'm existing and playing these parts is, it's bigger than me. It's just such a bigger force than me, and it's important. It's an important road to be on.
Yeah. And it makes for me, it always makes me feel connected. Like when I connect beyond, the small self, it's like, I feel alive again. And when I get to like this, I can lose it, or feel like I've lost connection to something that's there all the time.
Yeah, definitely. It's so interesting because it manifests itself in so many different ways for different people, and
Do you create intentions? Have you got visions or intentions? For example, we're recording this earlier in the month that it's going to be broadcast. It's January the 3rd. So of course, we've just come through New Year's resolutions or New Year's intentions. Do you work in that way to consciously call things in, or do you just let it be open and see what comes?
I'm a bit of both, because I do still feel that deep down I have a slight fear of how amazing I could be, if that makes sense. Like the power of it all, the actual full force. I'm a little bit overwhelmed by that. So sometimes I go like, I'll just go with the flow, see how it goes. But I secretly make little intentions as well. I don't know if that's, and this is something I have to face. This is the year I'm going to say I'm going to have to face it and really put attention to detail, in these intentions. I really need to focus in on them.
Well, yeah, I just intuitively know that you already are but will be a
Yeah.
powerful manifester if you want to focus there. But I love what you said, Sarah, because I think we've all been trained to be culturally scared of how amazing
Yeah.
life could be, we could be as a
Yeah.
world. I think culturally we've all just been trained that way. And it's funny, whenever I channel my guides, they always say that. They say, well, you've all been sold a bill of goods about what's possible, and
Yeah.
your opportunity is to go beyond that. So I think it's
Yeah.
always a dance between where we are now and who we've become programmed to be, and how
Yeah.
much we can stabilize opening or becoming something bigger.
Yeah, definitely. And it's also, you know, I guess now I'm in my 40s and you start to go through different phases of life. And, you know, as my parents will eventually at some point be leaving me, I'll be entering into another, you know, it's just all that kind of the world and shaking off that kind of upbringing, because there's something very much just in the culture, like it's a sweeping statement, but I'm going to say it anyway. But my Caribbean British upbringing, particularly British as well, is like kind of this this luxury that was not afforded
Hmm.
to my parents or to me, you know, like this idea of taking breaks and having you know,
Hmm.
having time to contemplate and meditate and
Yeah.
think about, you know, if you didn't work you were considered idle, you know. And it's that sort of thing that it's always about doing something else other than reflecting within or looking at yourself. um I don't remember my parents ever really looking in and having time for that. And yeah, that's another thing that is like trying to shake off that kind of idea.
And I do think it's culturally British as well, because my
Yeah.
parents have that too, or my late father and my mom definitely had that. And it's just, I think it's a generational wiring.
Mm,
But you're right, it is privilege too. Like, I think if you're struggling to survive, you aren't necessarily going to have the room or the opportunity to look at those kinds of things. So there is a privilege to it as well. But I definitely agree, it's ingrained in the
is ingrained.
history. Yeah.
And it's a mental thing as well, because there's privilege. There's one way of privilege in terms of what you have, but I never really, you know, as far as I know my parents worked hard and struggled, but I never wanted for a lot of things.
Mm,
You know, I was safe. I was in, you know, I had shelter. You know, I had food. You know, so in that sense, but it's also about it's the mentality of affording that space and time. You know, and knowing that you deserve that and you're
yeah.
worthy of that. That's another thing. Um, Part of that is capitalism. Part of that is colonialism. You know,
Right.
uh,
Right. Yeah.
there's a lot of that in there.
Well, how has the last 2 years been for you? Because this last 2 years, I think everybody has had to find their way of coping,
Yeah,
dealing with it, the overwhelm, the shock, the fear. That it's been a very intense couple of years on the planet. And how have you managed to, or how do you manage to restore or reset yourself? Like when you feel you're at the end of your tether, or you're burning out, or you're overwhelmed, are there things that you do, or whatever that work in progress is? I was
yeah.
curious what you use, or what you go to.
Wow. I sometimes I do sometimes meditate, but I also like to dance. I sometimes have to dance it out. I don't know what it is. I
Brilliant.
just have to release it out. Um, the last 2 years were kind of felt like quite a powerful awakening, as well as very painful. But everything felt very present and very real. And you know, um, when you've got a child as well, it's like for me there was nowhere to um, hide really, because when they ask you questions that you don't have the answers for, that was breaking down a wall in a way. Like there's a part of parenthood, as much as you are loving and caring and open and try to be, there's also a part that you protect and you cover up and you hide, you know.
Yeah.
So I didn't have the answers to when lockdown was going to stop. I didn't have the answers to what was happening to George Floyd, or what was going on with Trump. I didn't have these answers, and marches, and it was just a really powerful time, really painful and powerful and vulnerable time. But there was some amazing moments that we spent together as a family and with friends, reaching out to friends, and journeys we took to see family, and everything felt very precious and very present. Yeah.
With your daughter, do you see elements of you and your husband in her, as well as, of course, her being her own person? Like, is it an interesting dance, or is she very much her own person and you don't recognize you or your husband in her yet?
There are elements, but it's mad because she was from the time she was a baby, very present, very short. She was very much her own person, and that has just continued. Like, even tonight, I was talking to her, and she's like, "I'm going to be double figures." I said, "I know," and she goes, "That's it for the rest of my life, unless I reach 100, and I won't be." She was talking. I was like, "I remember you kind of talking like this when you were younger, and still, like 3 or 4, and now it's like you've always been yourself throughout." There are flickers of the both of us, but and the last 2 years was really powerful time, like hearing how she saw it, her viewpoint of everything, and it was just, I'm pretty amazed by her, by all young people, really, all the young ones, and how resilient they are, how
What has surprised you about being a mum?
I thought I'd be really good at it. I thought I'd be excellent. I thought, I like playing with kids. I'm really fun. And part of us be like, "What is this? I really don't have a clue." No,
well, that tells me how good you are at it, because I think every parent every parent talks about how difficult it is, and so no, that's hilarious.
I feel very lucky. I feel very lucky to be a parent, especially in the world, this kind of acting world that I'm in. Something about it, it's just like, that is really real, having her is real.
That's fantastic.
And it teaches me. You just keep learning all the time. I learn stuff about myself. Some things I don't really want to know. Some things that, wow, she just got me on a journey. It's really interesting.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
One thing you mentioned earlier at the beginning that I wanted to circle back to, you were talking about storytelling and how important that is to you. Have you yet written your own material or co-written your own material? Is that something you've played with or thought about?
Yeah, I've been told to do it many times, and I've thought about it for a very long time. I just haven't done it yet. I get these like kind of visions, like little scenes, ideas of scenes, or I see something and it plays out in my mind and I can see it. But it's like putting it all together.
Yeah.
I guess I haven't really felt the necessity yet to do it. I think I will at some point.
I think you will. I feel it in and around you. And I remember you were one of my favorite people to improvise with. And I think anyone who has a talent for improvisation or just an ability to improvise, it's all there. It's just about capturing it, structuring it, and
yeah.
And
I have such an interest in people. I love actors. I love watching, actors as well, so yeah, I'm sure I'll do it at some point.
Yeah. And are there any other dreams that you have, whether it's to do with the work you're doing in the world or just life? Like, are there any things that are still kind of in the back of your mind of, I definitely want to do that at some point?
All I think about is having a couple of dogs and going for very long walks and having my own kiln and making my own pottery. That's what I think about.
Oh,
Lots of
cool.
walks. Yeah, lots of long walks.
Well, then this is the manifestation part of the combat. This is, you just write all this down, stick it on the wall, but see it and it will happen, whether it's in 3 years or 5 years or And the pottery, is that something you already have a connection to, or is that something you just have as
No.
dream?
I just have this idea that I'm going to be making them with my hands and burning them in the fire, in the kiln. I just would love to do that. I know it's very basic and simple.
No, I love
thing,
it.
but yeah.
That's very cool. Very, very cool. Well, Sarah, thank you so much for doing this today. And it has just been like a big treat for my heart just to kind of sit with you. And 27 years, how does it go so quickly?
I can't believe it.
How does it go so quickly? So I'm 45 now. You 44?
I'm 45.
You're 45. Okay.
Yeah.
So
I just think about that as well.
how about when we're 72 and you have a show, I'll come on your show.
Come on.
But shows will be holograms by then. It won't be like watching a screen. It'll be a hologram that comes into your room.
Exactly. I'll still look the same.
Let's hope. I'm sure there'll be filters.
Yeah, exactly.
To kind of turn back the clock.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh.
Well, I'm always so happy for you and proud of you and selfishly grateful when I see you on the screen. So as much as I want to see you doing theatre, and I would love to see you doing some theatre actually, I'm grateful you're doing TV and film, because it means we get to see you move across our screens, and the impact you have through the reach is huge as well. So I love that you do both, and yeah, I'm just really, really, really happy for you and love seeing you out there.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Likewise, really proud of you, Lee.
Thank you, my friend. Well, thank you for doing this. And you're on Instagram, and anywhere else that anyone can follow you and see what you're up to?
I'm on Twitter. I've kind of been on and off them for a bit, but I am on Twitter and Instagram. I think that's all I do.
Yeah. Well, we'll put some links in the show notes for anyone who wants to keep up with what you're doing. But I love you, my friend. Thank you for doing this, and see you on either in person or on the screen next.
In person, I hope.
Yeah, I hope so too.
Yeah, thank you. Take care.
Hello, I'm Lee Harris. I'm an intuitive and a channeler, and every year in January, I hold a Rebirth course, a way for us to look at the year that has gone and let go of what we no longer need, and look ahead at the year to come and see what we might want to create in our life. This year, I'm going to be bringing a lot of channeling to my Rebirth program. So I will be channeling my guides several times throughout the course of the 2-week program, and they will be bringing transmissions through, all based on empowerment. When I was tuning in this year as to what the overarching theme for Rebirth 2022 would be, I heard very clearly from them the empowerment sessions. So that is what they will be bringing in the channeled messages, and I and my team will be supporting those messages with a series of video and audio presentations, all designed to help you reconfigure who you want to be for the year ahead. Stephen Washington will be teaching Qigong and wellness practices. I will also be doing a whole session on manifestation and creation, and our habits and our patterns, and how we can elevate and change those in order to bring in the new. And my team members, Marty and Wendy, will be adding some support videos, as well as an MP3 recording that you get as soon as you sign up, called Your Garden of Higher Consciousness. Rebirth is always our biggest course of the year, and so we have a very large community from all over the world who tune in, and most importantly, weigh in. So we have a community forum that's completely private, and it's where you and other members can share your experiences, not only of the material, but of what's going on in your life right now and what you're looking to cultivate. So the group energy that forms around Rebirth is very strong. And we also have transcripts and worksheets. And once you are in Rebirth, you will have lifetime access to all of the materials. So even though we run most of these sessions live as live broadcasts, you don't have to be able to be there live. And if you do miss a live broadcast, you will get the replay on video and in transcript form and audio within 2 days of the broadcast. We begin on January 17th, so if it resonates with you to join us for Rebirth 2022, the empowerment sessions, I, my guides, and my team would love to welcome you.